Two-step inequalities are very similar to two-step equations, and remember, we actually add two more steps into the two steps that they use for solving equations. The first step was railroad tracks. The second step was get rid of the constant. And remember, your constant is a number by itself, and you can use addition and subtraction for that. Then get rid of the coefficient, or make the coefficient 1, whichever way you like to think about it. And to do that, you can multiply or divide. Lastly, check your answer. And now, remember, I don't normally make you show your check. It's just a good thing to do so that you know that you have the answer correct. So the first thing, we know we're trying to solve for x. We're trying to get x by itself, so we have to start our steps. You can do the railroad tracks. Then we need to get rid of the constant, and the constant on that side, the number by itself, is at 15 or minus 15. So we do the opposite. Add 15, add 15. When you do that, these would cancel out. You'd bring it down, you'd have 4x. 5 plus 15 is 20. And you would have less than or equal to, it still stays the same. From here, you would divide by 4 to get rid of that coefficient because it was multiplication in between there. So you do the opposite, or your inverse operations. Divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 would leave you with x. 20 divided by 4 would leave you with 5. And it would be x is less than or equal to 5. So when you would go to graph this, I usually put my number in the center, whatever that number is. It would be closed circle at 5 because it has the or equal to, and the less than part tells us it's going to go to the left. Now, that only works if the variable is first. You have to make sure the variable is first. If we had something that was written like this, 3 is greater than x. Remember, to rearrange it, you would also have to switch your sign. So it would have to become a less than. Because here, something that would fit would be like 3 is greater than 2. So in order to switch the sides, 2 is also less than 3. You would have to change the inequality sign around. Next one is the exact same thing. You're trying to solve for your variable, so you need to get that by itself. To do that, the first thing you want to get rid of is your constant, or your number by itself. Since it's a minus 2, you'd have to add 2 to cancel it out. Remember, to cancel it, we want it to be 0. Those would cross out because negative 2 plus 2, or a minus 2 and a positive 2, cancel each other out. You'd have x over 5 and 3, and that inequality would stay the same. From here, since we are dividing by 5, you would have to multiply by 5 to cancel it out. Or if you like to think about it as the fractions, 5 over 1, when you simplify, the 5's would also turn into 1's, and this side would just be x. On the other side, you have to do the exact same thing. And so here, 5 times 3 would be 15, and it would be greater than. So x is greater than 15. So again, we'd fill this out. Open circle, arrow to the right. Open circle because it doesn't include 15, it's just greater than, and since it's greater than, we would point to the right. The last one shows the new part to this. The rest of it, that's all the exact same of what we were doing with equations, but it gets a little bit different when you have inequalities, and you'll see why in 1 second. Put your railroad tracks, and we're trying to get the x by itself. So we get rid of our constant. This is nothing new, so we would subtract 4 because it was plus 4. When you do that, these cancel. bring down your negative 2x, negative 20 minus 4 on your number line, that would be negative 20, go backwards 4, so negative 24. And here is where it's different. Remember in 6-7, we said when you multiply or divide by a negative with your inequality, you have to flip the symbol. So we have to divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Now, whatever this 24 was, it really didn't matter whether it was positive or negative. What mattered was what I was doing in this step. I took and I divided by negative 2. So that means I had to flip the sign. So instead of less than, it's going to be a greater than. This side would be x because negative 2 over negative 2 is just a 1x. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So we would have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It would be open circle at 12, arrow to the right. Now remember, if it would have been something that looked like this instead, at this part, if it would have been 2x is less than negative 24, and from there we would have divided by 2 and divided by 2. In this case, it would not flip. It stays the same because even though that 24 was negative, we divided by a positive 2. So it would stay the same way. It would not flip around. Now there will be some story problems on your homework as well, and every time you do a story problem, make sure you're thinking about if, the two questions you need to ask are what do you know and what information are you looking for? Like what is the problem asking and what information did they already give you? What do you know?